Shout out to Christine Brennan. Team USA, y'all need to stop playing. Hold on, wait a second. Y'all will recognize and appreciate Caitlyn Clark as the face of this whole get-up. Nobody's checking for these other, no disrespect. Great basketball players. That don't mean people checking for you. You mean to tell me y'all put other people's face all on the Team USA stuff and y'all left Caitlyn Clark off of it?
This should be a slam dunk. A simple, obvious, can't miss decision. You have most electrifying, talked about, revenue-generating athlete your sport has seen in decades. And you're about to kick off a new season, a new cycle, desperate to capture the public's attention. So what do? If you're USA Basketball, you do the one thing that defies all logic and business sense. You pretend she doesn't exist. This isn't just a story about a bad marketing decision. This is a story of a sports organization that had a golden ticket handed to them, and they decided to tear it up right in front of the entire world. And the fallout from this single decision exposes a deep, long-standing dysfunction that could ultimately cost them everything they've worked for.
To go all out promoting women's basketball, bring new fans in, and get unprecedented attention for a team that dropped in TV viewership at the Paris Olympics. That's right. The women's USA viewership dropped at the Olympics in Paris. Nobody was watching it. They would have added the photo of one of the player to this graphic, but no.
If you want to understand how a sports league can fumble its biggest moment, you need to see this whole story. And by the end, I want you to let me know in the comments if you think this was a simple mistake or something much, much worse. It all started on a quiet Friday night, right around midnight. That's when veteran sports journalist Christine Brennan, a reporter who has covered the Olympics since 1984, dropped a story that sent shockwaves through the basketball world. USA Basketball had just released its promotional materials for an upcoming December training camp. It was a simple graphic, the kind teams put out all the time, featuring a few of their star players. But this one was different. This one was missing someone massive. Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, and Kalia Copper were all there, all fantastic, gold medal winning players. But nowhere to be found, not hidden in the background, not in small print, but completely absent, was Caitlyn Clark, the biggest name in basketball.
Caitlyn Clark on that team, the team that so richly deserves attention and doesn't get it and won't get it without her, because there's just so much going on in an Olympics. On that same day, there probably will be 30 other gold medals given out, and sports editors and others have to make a decision. Do you go to Simone Biles? Do you go to women's soccer? Where do you go? It's not, there's just too much going on. You put Caitlyn Clark on that team, and every single one of those guys that can't stand women's,
the player who single-handedly drove WNBA viewership up by an almost unbelievable 400% during her rookie season. The athlete whose jersey outsold every other player in women's sports combined. And the governing body for the sport in the United States decided she wasn't one of the faces they wanted to promote. Christine Brennan's reaction in her reporting said it all. This wasn't just disappointment. It was genuine disbelief, because she, unlike perhaps the decision makers at USA Basketball, understands the bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I've given it, as you know, over the last 60 hours. I broke the news right around midnight, Friday to Saturday morning. And I think on both fronts, merit and publicity, you, of course, mentioned it, it's just a total swing and a miss by the national governing body, by USA Basketball, just a missed opportunity. And but I'll start with my answer by saying I have covered this.
To understand why this is such a catastrophic error, you have to understand who Christine Brennan is. She isn't a hot take artist on social media. She's not a provocateur. She is an institution in sports journalism with sources and credibility built over 40 years. When she speaks about Olympic sports, people listen. Her career spans a time when women's sports were an afterthought in newsrooms, and she has been a pivotal voice in forcing editors to take them seriously. She's witnessed the evolution, the slow, grinding progress, and the countless moments where progress was stalled by institutional neglect. So when someone her stature, with her deep-seated love for the Olympic movement, sounds a 5-alarm fire over a promotional graphic, it's not a trivial matter. She described it as a total swing and a massive missed opportunity. But to really grasp the depth of her concern, you have to understand what she has witnessed firsthand.
In 1992, Rich, how the men's team, how that grew basketball around the world, especially for boys and men, and where it reached Africa. Well, the opportunity with Caitlyn Clark's popularity, Africa, Europe, Asia. Think of how many number 22 USA jerseys would have been sold. Money that could have then been pumped back in to help have developmental programs.
She has stood in the press section, the designated media area, during Olympic gold medal games for the U.S. women's basketball team. And she used one word to describe the scene: tumbleweeds. Think about that for a second. The U.S. women's basketball team is the most dominant dynasty in modern Olympic history. They haven't lost a game since 1992. They've won 7 consecutive gold medals. We're talking about a level of sustained excellence that is almost incomprehensible in professional sports. And yet, the journalists who cover sports for a living can't even be bothered to show up. This isn't just about empty seats. It's about a broken system. Brennan recalls conversations as far back as the 2012 London Olympics with legendary basketball writer Bob Ryan about this exact problem. The journalists who eagerly cover the men's team, even at the same venue, will simply choose not to cover the women. It's not a scheduling conflict. It's a deliberate choice, an editorial calculation that their audience just doesn't care. This creates a vicious cycle. No media coverage means no public narrative, which means no audience growth, which reinforces the editor's decision not to cover it.
See what I'm saying? Christine Brennan gets it. Brennan gets it. Regardless of how you feel about her, she's been on this stuff from the beginning. Caitlyn Clark got disrespected by Team USA when they had her coming off the bench when she was, 17? Y'all had her coming off the bench behind Haley Van Lith. Like, what are y'all talking about?
Brennan has been trapped in this cycle for decades, watching a magnificent team play to a silent world. And the data from the most recent Olympics proves that this cynical calculation is, unfortunately, correct. The Paris Olympics saw a massive, undeniable drop in TV viewership for the women's basketball team. The hardcore fans were there, but the casual sports audience, the millions of viewers who drive advertising revenue and mainstream media attention, they stayed away in droves. Brennan reported that the ratings fell significantly because those casual fans had no compelling reason to tune in. They didn't have a star they were connected to, a storyline they were invested in.
By Team USA when they had her coming off the bench when she was, 17? Y'all had her coming off the bench behind Haley Van Lith. Like, what are y'all talking about? This stuff has been going on far too long. Team USA, y'all need to get it together. Respect the woman with the throne. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about that.
The team was a collection of incredible, yet to the general public, anonymous talents. They were a product without a face, and in today's attention economy, that's a death sentence. Now, hold that thought and contrast it with what was happening simultaneously in the WNBA. It was like watching two different universes collide. Indiana Fever games, featuring one specific rookie, were averaging 1.2 million viewers on cable, numbers the league hadn't seen since its inception. Games she played in were selling out arenas that had been half empty for years, creating a palpable energy that was felt through the television screen. International media outlets, from the BBC to publications across Europe and Asia, were sending reporters specifically to cover her. They weren't coming for the WNBA. They were coming for Caitlyn Clark. The demand was there. The interest was there. The blueprint for success was being written in real time, right in front of USA Basketball's eyes. They saw the numbers. They saw the merchandise fly off the shelves. They saw the entire sports world pivoting to watch. They had a front row seat to the most significant cultural shift in women's basketball in a generation. And their response to all of that data, all of that momentum, was to create a promotional graphic that looked backward to the very team that nobody was watching and leave the one player who could actually change that completely off of it. It's not just a mistake. It's a profound failure of vision. But here's the part that makes this even more frustrating. This isn't a one-time error in judgment. This is part of a long, established pattern, a deeply ingrained institutional blind spot. This is an organization that has consistently failed to recognize what it has in Caitlyn Clark. Let's rewind the clock. When Clark was just 17 years old, playing for the USA Basketball Youth National Teams, she wasn't even starting. They had her coming off the bench, behind players like Haley Van Lith. Let that sink in. The player who would go on to shatter the all-time NCAA scoring record, a record held by Pete Maravich for over half a century, was deemed not good enough to start for her own national team. This is in hindsight bias. Even at 17, her otherworldly court vision and logo range shooting were evident to anyone who understood the game's evolution. She was a paradigm shift in the jersey, a player who was redefining the geometry of the court from the moment she stepped on it. Yet the evaluation system within USA basketball, a system seemingly built on traditional metrics and perhaps internal politics, somehow place her on the bench. It suggests a scouting and selection process that values conformity over genius, that is slow to recognize a talent that doesn't fit a pre-existing mold. So this promotional snub isn't some isolated incident. It's a continuation of a mindset, a culture within the organization that has, for years, undervalued its most transformative asset. It reveals a troubling disconnect between the people who manage the team and the seismic shifts happening in their own sport. Christine Brennan laid out the stakes in the clearest possible terms, and she didn't hold back. She drew a direct and absolutely valid comparison to the 1992 men's dream team. That team, with Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird, didn't just win a gold medal. They fundamentally changed the game of basketball across the entire planet. They were a traveling global showcase, a spectacle of talent and charisma that transcended sport. Kids in Africa, Europe, and Asia saw those stars and immediately fell in love with the game, paving the way for the likes of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama. The NBA's global expansion, its billions in international broadcast rights, the 40 different countries now represented in the league, all of it traces directly back to marketing masterstroke of the Dream Team. Brennan argued that Caitlyn Clark represents that exact same opportunity for women's basketball, a chance to leapfrog years of sluggish growth and achieve global relevance overnight. Imagine the number 22 USA jersey selling in markets where women's basketball isn't even a blip on the radar. Imagine young girls in other countries seeing her on that global stage, pulling up from the logo, and being inspired to pick up a ball, to believe that their audacity could be celebrated. The financial implications are staggering. The revenue from that global merchandise boom, the increased value of international television rights, could have been pumped back into developmental programs all over the world, funding the growth of the sport for a generation. Instead, USA Basketball made a decision that prioritized short-term, internal politics and perceived sense of veteran respect over long-term, global growth. They chose the path of least resistance over the path of historic transformation. And let's be brutally honest about the media dynamic here, because she pulled back the curtain on the grim reality of sports journalism. She pointed out that at the Olympics, there are dozens of gold medal events happening on the same day. It's a logistical nightmare for sports editors. Do they send their reporter to Simone Biles in gymnastics, a guaranteed ratings bonanza and headline generator? To the women's soccer final, which has its own massive, established fan base? Or to a women's basketball game that, historically, their readers have ignored? She stated a blunt, uncomfortable fact. There are male sports journalists, influential voices in major publications, who simply will not cover women's basketball. They view it as a lesser product, and their bias directly shapes public perception. But that calculation changed dramatically in 2024. The Caitlyn Clark effect was so powerful it forced a recalculation. Suddenly, those same journalists were fighting for credentials to Indiana Fever games. They were writing features, analyzing her game, because their editors finally demanded it. That British journalist Brennan met at a golf tournament. He told her point blank he was planning to cover Caitlyn Clark at the Olympics. He wasn't asking, he was stating his assignment. The international media infrastructure was ready. The demand was confirmed. The path to breaking out of that decades-long cycle of apathy was finally clear. The gatekeepers were, for the first time, holding the gate open. And USA Basketball, unbelievably, decided to block the path, telling those eager international journalists that the main attraction wouldn't even be in the building. The consequences of this are not just about hurt feelings or online arguments. This is about the financial and cultural sustainability of the entire sport. The WNBA just negotiated a landmark new collective bargaining agreement, one that dramatically increased player salaries and benefits, a crucial step toward making a career in the league a viable long-term prospect for more athletes. That didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because the league could finally point to something that lacked for years: undeniable, quantifiable growth in viewership, attendance, and sponsorship. That leverage, that proof of concept, was delivered primarily by one person: The league could walk into negotiations and show charts with lines shooting upwards, all correlating with one rookie's arrival. Every player in the league, whether they admit it or not, has financially benefited from the attention Caitlyn Clark brought to the game. Now, USA Basketball is looking ahead to the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, which should be a home court celebration of this new era. These are monumental opportunities to cement this growth, to ride this wave of momentum into a new era of prosperity and visibility. But momentum is a fragile, fleeting thing. The millions of casual fans who tuned in for Caitlyn Clark need a reason to stay. They need to see the player who captivated them representing her country on the biggest stage, hitting deep threes in a USA jersey. If USA Basketball continues to minimize her, to bench her, or to leave her off as promotional materials, those fans will simply drift away. They were drawn by a star. If the star is hidden, they will find their entertainment elsewhere. And once that momentum is gone, it is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to get back. You cannot manufacture organic interest. You can only nurture it. And USA Basketball is currently neglecting the most promising seedling they've ever had. So we're left with a haunting question. Was this promotional graphic just a simple, tone-deaf marketing error made by an overworked intern? Or was it a symptom of a much deeper disease within USA Basketball? A disease of institutional arrogance, of being so insulated and so focused on internal politics and old-world hierarchies that it has become blind to the reality of its own sport? Have they been winning for so long that they've forgotten how to sell the game? They watched as a generational talent created a perfect storm of interest, a lightning in a bottle moment that most sports leagues can only dream of, a moment where cultural relevance, athletic brilliance, and market forces align perfectly. And instead of harnessing that energy, instead of building the entire marketing apparatus around it, they turn their backs on it. Christine Brennan has seen this story before. She's watched this team dominate on the court for 40 years while failing, over and over again, to capture the public's imagination off of it. Now, she's watching them make the exact same mistake at the exact moment they were handed the solution. The player who can fill those empty press sections. The player who can make those international journalists care. The player who can sell those jerseys across the globe. That player is Caitlyn Clark. And USA Basketball, for the second time in just a few months, decided they didn't want her on their poster. What do you think? Is this just a minor oversight, or is it a sign of an organization that is completely out of touch and risking the entire future of its sport? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on how this story develops, make sure you subscribe. This is far from over.